liberals defend the president, saying the president is trying real hard and that he's doing the best he can. Yeah, he's trying real hard and doing the best he can and doing the wrong things. Liberals often say for their Democrat officials that we should just cooperate so we can move forward. But they don't say that for Republican officials. And in the State of the Union address, we're supposed to just go along with the plan to give more power to the government that thinks it's our source of opportunity and prosperity.
I think what's happening. Propaganda.
After a decade of grinding war, our brave men and women in uniform are coming home.
Our brave men and women are coming home. We can dig that. But are the factions they were fighting destroyed? No. That's like cheering for the football team that's getting on the bus to come home in the third quarter and were made to play touch against a team that played tackle, who also had their burqa-draped cheerleaders running interference.
Our businesses have created over 6 million new jobs. We buy more American cars than we have in 5 years, and less foreign oil than we have in 20.
Yeah, after we lost like 6 million, so that brings you to square one. All right, let's look at California, for instance. The economy sucks. Jobs are low. Businesses are leaving. Gas prices are high. Regulation is high. Taxes are high. Food costs are high. The rent is too damn high. Yet people are just walking in and buying cars like it ain't no thing? Really? And California ain't alone in this. Also, most people just don't go into a dealership and buy a car. With many people, their payments could be stretched out from the first time you were elected president until now. They haven't bought their car yet. Your teleprompter may tell you that more people are buying cars, but the real world says you're lying. And yeah, I reckon we're buying less foreign oil. That's because it's too freaking expensive.
Corporate profits have skyrocketed to all-time highs, but for more than a decade, wages and incomes have barely budged.
Dang, barely 3 minutes into his speech, he goes right into class warfare. Guess you were texting or something and you missed that part when Benjamin Carson schooled you about hurting the rich. If you're such a unifier, then you shouldn't be trying to divide people from what they earn, and then try to divide that amongst the people. This divides the people even more, because there will always be the outcry of people saying they're not getting their fair share while complaining that others aren't paying their fair share. And for too many, someone else's fair share is never enough. See how your dividing actions contradicts your unifying smoke-blowing language?
And it encourages free enterprise, rewards individual initiative, and opens the doors of opportunity to every child across this great nation.
And opens the door for every child? How can you believe what you're saying when you're pro-abortion? Which most certainly shuts the door on a child.
Now, some in Congress have proposed preventing only the defense cuts by making even bigger cuts to things like education and job training.
Yeah. The first job of the government is to defend its citizens, which means defense is the last place you make cuts. As far as cutting funds for education, education gets buku bucks, and the more money we throw at education, the worse results seem to get. As these liberal teachers demonstrate to their students how to whine about how they never have enough and to demand more of other people's money, instead of demonstrating resourcefulness and practicality, things that are pretty useful in the working world.
Yes, the biggest driver of our long-term debt is the rising cost of health care for an aging population.
I thought it was the rising cost of gas. That's stuff that we have plenty of over here, which we could use to really help with the economy, but we're forced to depend on foreign fossil fuels and forced to invest in the green industry.
It's true that no single event makes a trend. But the fact is, the 12 hottest years on record have all come in the last 15. Heat waves, droughts, wildfires, floods, all are now more frequent and more intense.
Many would argue that it's been pretty cold, starting with the people who just went through that East Coast blizzard. Yes, some places are experiencing warmer weather, while others are experiencing cooler weather. Y'all keep leaving that part out. The planet's a relatively big place, so expect some large variances. And y'all know I'm right about the cool weather, because y'all keep trying to hide behind the safe language of climate change, when we point out the cool climate that balances out the warming you keep trying to scare people with. Wildfires are more intense because you liberal environmentalists won't let the old growth be clear, so there's not as much for a natural fire to consume. Also, I think the sun has more influence on the weather on this planet than we do. And the sun has variances in its atmosphere. Is that our fault too? And even though y'all keep saying climate change, which is supposed to be all unusual weather patterns, Y'all keep implying that warming is the only problem, and you've made it a political tool to force people to pay taxes to subsidize crony capitalism in the form of the green industry. You're taking capitalism, which is good, and twisting it into bad, which is crony capitalism.
Real reform means stronger border security, and we can build on the progress my administration's already made, putting more boots on the southern border than at any time in our history, and reducing illegal crossings to their lowest levels in 40 years.
Obama's plan to decrease border crossing is really effective. His policies are destroying the economy, and there's not enough jobs to attract people to cross the border. A big reason why people cross the border is because there's not enough jobs in their country. And the reason why there's not enough jobs in their country is because of a government filled with people like Obama who make a government that looks for every way it can to take more money from people to feed the insatiable appetite of the government. Y'all are being seduced by the very things that cause people to want to leave their countries.
Today, a full-time worker making the minimum wage earns $14,500 a year, even with the tax relief we put in place. A family with 2 kids that earns the minimum wage still lives below the poverty line. That's wrong. That's why since the last time this Congress raised the minimum wage, 19 states have chosen to bump theirs even higher. Tonight, let's declare that in the wealthiest nation on earth, no one who works full-time should have to live in poverty and raise the federal minimum wage to $9 an hour.
How many times do I have to tell you patronizing limousine liberals, the minimum wage with an entry-level job is not meant to be a family-supporting wage. You pay a person according to what the fair market says their skill is worth, not according to how many kids they have. Maybe that's how it works in government. Okay, how many kids do you have? Okay, here's some more money for you. Don't forget to vote Democrat. Listen, if you want to have a bunch of kids, you should make sure you have a skill that pays the bills for them. Don't have kids that you can't afford with little or no skill and demand a job to pay you more, or demand that people just give you more.
Somebody needs to pay for all my children, and mine and Gary, all our suffering, all our pain. Somebody needs to be held accountable, and they need to pay.
And guess what? When you raise minimum wage up to $9 an hour, the businesses are going to have to raise the price of their products to cover that cost. Things are going to become more expensive, and you liberals are going to be at it again, saying we need to increase minimum wage. Oh, and what about those mom and pop shops y'all claim to care about so much? What hurts them the most ain't Walmart. It's you forcing them to pay a wage that reduces their hiring power and the manpower to run their businesses.
Likewise, the leaders of Iran must recognize that now's the time for a diplomatic solution, because a coalition stands united in demanding that they meet their obligations, and we will do what is necessary to prevent them from getting a nuclear weapon.
Do you know why North Korea and Iran are still pursuing their nuclear and delivery program? Because for more than 10 years, liberalism has shown that the United States has been slow in decimating their enemies. So they're not really threatened by the president's so-called discouragement towards them to have nukes and the delivery capability.
Because in the 2 months since Newtown, more than 1,000 birthdays, graduations, anniversaries have been stolen from our lives by a bullet from a gun. More than 1,000.
Whoa, wait a minute. He's bringing up kids that were robbed of their birthdays, graduations, and anniversaries by a bullet, but he's not bothered by the fact that abortion robs far more children of birthdays, graduations, and anniversaries far more than any bullet ever had time to? I'm Alfonso Rachel with ZoNation. Man, why'd I have to walk way over there to get my water? You've got some splaining to do.